Hi, this is Patrick Greeno, owner and managing editor of Radicards.com. Before we get started, I want to show you how to get to our store. Go to Radicards.com and click on the shop icon in the header, or just go straight to store.radicards.com. There you'll find an inventory of our products, from box label covers to fitted bags for a variety of different cases that you can order direct from our site. Be sure to check it out. We look forward to shipping your order. Now that that's out of the way, let's get started. I'll be hosting this episode, but joining me is King Griffey Jr. collector Rodney Vallejo. The Mount Rushmore of minimally discussed baseball cards from 1998. Thank you for tuning into Radicards.com. I'm your host, Patrick Greeno, and today we're going to have an interesting episode. We're going to be talking about the Mount Rushmore of cards from 1998 that are minimally discussed, if discussed at all. And this is between myself, Patrick Greeno, the owner of Radicards.com, and my co-host here, Rodney Vallejo, who's a King Griffey Jr. collector, and he's going to be talking about his four cards, and then I'm going to talk about my four cards. Okay, this is just our opinion. This isn't fact. This is just like based on our experience interacting online and just collecting, our experience of what cards are, interesting that people don't talk about. This isn't a best list or the most rare or the most underrated. This is just cards that people don't talk about from 1998. So thank you, Rodney, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So, Rodney, why don't you start us off? What are four cards that you feel from 1998 are not discussed in the hobby?
So it was a tough choice, and I had a longer list, but obviously we had to break it down to four, the Mount Rushmore. So the first one of these Mount Rushmore cards, in my opinion, are the 98 Pacific Online winner cards. And I think this set kind of gets lost in the shuffle because Pacific had so many sets that were put out in 98, and Pacific Online was geared, of course, towards an online redemption. But one of the inserts was an online web card. And they're kind of unassuming, but on the back of each online web card, there would be an alphanumeric code. And you could go to the website that Pacific had, and you could enter in this alphanumeric code. And if you entered in the code and it was deemed a winner, then you could send this card in, and they would send you back an online redeemed winner card. Given that this set, like I believe, was lost in the shuffle, so to speak, of Pacific, I don't think many people really either understood what this online redemption program was, or even took the time to go to the website in 1998, log in and see if they actually won and send it in. And then when you get it back, we didn't know what it looked like. So for the longest time, some of the player collectors that I've met over the years, they for the longest time never believed that this set even exists, or the online winner cards for their player even existed. The card looks exactly like the online web card that's packed out, except it has an embossed online winner stamp on the front. Given that this set has not too many player collectors that I know that have their actual player of an online winner, the fact that Pacific Online wasn't really a popular brand, and that there were so many players, I think this is a set that's easily overlooked, yet has a card, the online winner, that is pretty rare and unappreciated.
Just to be clear, what you have here is a card that's sent in. The company stamps it and sends it back, but you have to have taken the action to send the card in to begin with, and that action in and of itself was highly uncommon in 1998, which is why so few of these are seen.
My second card that I think is on the Mount Rushmore for underappreciated sets in 98 are the colored Kramers Choice from Pacific. So staying within the Pacific brand again. And they're numbered, and they're serial numbered, and there are 5 different colors. According to Beckett, these were released in 1998 Pacific Invincible. And there was also, in their flagship set, 98 Pacific, there was a Kramers Choice insert that was in that set. Same picture, just of a color that looks like a little bit like it's brass. However, in Pacific Invincible, there were Kramers Choice inserts as well, but they were colored and then they were hand numbered on the back. So I originally misspoke. I said that there were 5 colors, and there's actually 6. And the reason why, again, I think that these are underrated is because this is like one of the first instances that you can see that Pacific had of a rainbow. But the cards themselves, there's so many different numbering schemes that if you get one of these in a pack, you're wondering, wait a minute, what set does this belong to? Why is there a red, a green, a dark blue, a light blue, a purple? And given again that Pacific had so many sets out in 98, especially you had your flagship set, which just had a regular Kramers Choice that was not serial numbered by hand. Then you have these. It's kind of like information overload.
Hey, they also came out of Crown Royal that year too, so they actually
there you go.
three
Yeah.
releases, like multi-release product, kind of like not dissimilar from Donner's Crusades, right? That's a multi-release product.
Exactly.
I kind of like that though, because it has you buying. I mean, it's a great marketing strategy, right? Like, hey, we're gonna break this set up into different releases, so you have to buy the other products that we make to get the rest of the set.
The next card on my Mount Rushmore is from the Pinnacle Epic set. Of course, well, it's from the Epic set. The inserts themselves were in Pinnacle, Zenith, Score, and then the 4th was supposed to be in Pinnacle Certified, which was never officially released, but of course backdoored. And I'm focusing right now on this one on the moment, the Epic's moment of Griffey. So obviously I collect Griffey, like you mentioned, but the reason why this one is so unappreciated is because majority of people that I've met or come across don't even know that this card exists. Epic's was like the Donner's Crusade insert in that it was released across multiple brands, and there were 3 colors. So the 3 colors were orange, purple, and emerald. Orange being the easiest, purple being the middle, and then the emerald being the hardest to find. I think Pinnacle stated that 10% of all Epics produced were emeralds. And then they inserted these Epics cards within their Pinnacle, Score, Zenith, and like I said, the Pinnacle Certified, those 4 sets. And then, to make it even more confusing, Pinnacle, or Donruss League Pinnacle at the time, put out an All-Star Epics set, which was released in the Score Rookie Traded, and then the Pinnacle Plus. The Epics Emerald, Purple, and Orange moments for Griffey were not supposed to exist because Pinnacle went bankrupt in 1998. The reason why I think this set of the moments are so underrated, it comes from a sense of confusion. You have an Epics moment, then you also have an Epics game, you have an Epics play, and then you have an Epics season. So you have 3 different colors, 4 different cards across 4 different sets, and then you have the 2 other sets from Score and Pinnacle Plus, the All-Star Epics, and you're left with a little bit of confusion. And again, people don't necessarily like to focus on a set that has so many moving parts, if you will.
I mean, with the All-Star Epics Emerald, that kind of threw like an extra, degree of confusion into the mix, because you're like, okay, those also say moment on them,
exactly.
But those are the All-Star moment, and those are quite a bit more common. But the moment cards themselves, because they're not serial numbered, I think the only one that should be serial numbered, obviously, is the Emerald, but it's
Hmm.
not. So people might have it and not realize what they have.
The last one on my Rushmore is also a bankruptcy set. It's the 98 Donner Signature Executive Proofs. So um, the actual set, 98 Donner Signature, was actually the only reason why it was released to the public was because Playoff had bought them out already. At this time, Pinnacle, Don League Pinnacle, DLP, was already bankrupt. And there were players who had, of course, autographed their cards, and their bankruptcy prevented the players who had already signed from getting paid. So the MLB Players Association, I'm sorry, just the MLB Players Association, they actually allowed Playoff to purchase DLP, Donruss League Pinnacle, and then distribute the Donruss signature set under a temporary license. So we have the Donruss signature set only because of some players who had signed already had not gotten paid. For specifically these executive proofs, the reason why I think these are so, underappreciated and for all that matter, maybe even unknown, is because these are just like other executive proofs in that on the back of the card, instead of a serial number, you would see a bunch of X's to denote a proof that was seen by a higher level executive before it was put into production. There were 122 cards in the Donruss signature autograph set, and any player could have, any of those 122 players could have a base, a Millennium Marks, or a Century Marks autograph. However, the executive proofs, these surfaced just in May of last year, May of 2018, and there were some players who had proof cards that were not actually packed out as autographs. So in other words, Mike Piazza, he was not in the Donruss signature autograph insert set, meaning that he was not one of the 122 players that you could potentially get an autograph of in a pack. However, in May of last year, Mike Piazza had a proof, an executive proof, unsigned base auto that was red, and unsigned Millennium Marks, and an unsigned Century Marks. And he was one of a handful of players. I think there were 67 of them. And these players, up to last year, May of 2018, people never even knew that they had a card that even existed of their player. So along with Piazza, there were some other stars in the set. There were Jeff Bagwell, Biggio, Edgar Martinez, Pedro Martinez, Manny Ramirez, Larry Walker, Omar Vizquel. Those are just some off the top of my head. And these 67 players, for almost 20 years, player collectors had no idea that, for example, a Mike Piazza executive proof from 1998 Donner signature even existed. So I just found that wildly entertaining because I love the bankruptcy stuff, but also, it's almost completely unknown. Because when these hit the market, the player collectors, bought these and snatched these up immediately, and then they go into PCs, which you may never even see. So if you blinked, you almost missed that your player even existed. But that's why I wanted to round out my Mount Rushmore with the Donner's signature executive proofs.
Yeah, this is a good set, and there's also some players are featured in a preview set. I know Chipper Jones has. So you've got that yellow version
Yes.
that's really excellent. I really like these cards a lot. I think they sign really well. They're just, the gradients, the stuff started to come in handy using this type of gradient design we see now on almost every product that's signed. You've got a card with the gradient, so you have a place to sign, and the signature is bold. This is one of those sets that's like perfectly designed for an autograph. Thanks for sharing your 4 cards. Those are really strong cards. And if you're listening, I'm going to try to, the stuff I'm going to be talking about isn't nearly as interesting, but we're going to discuss it anyway. So let's jump in.
No need to sell yourself short.
We're going to talk about something that can change scenes a little bit. The stuff I'm going to talk about Most of it's pack issued. But it's stuff that as a player collector myself, I've had a hard time to find. It took me a long time to find these cards, and I just
Hmm.
don't see them in the market. And they're just cards that I'm like, I like, but they don't. They're just minimally discussed, and sometimes they sell for bargains because of what they are. So let's jump right into it here. The first one on my list is 1998 Fleer Tradition Vintage 63 Classic. It's a 128 card set, so it's a pretty big set. And the entire set is paralleled with this rare version of it. And what it is they're inserted into Series 1, Series 2 hobby packs, and they printed just 63 sets of this parallel set. What distinguishes it from the base set is that the front and the back feature flat gold foil. On the front, you've got the little diamond in the corner that's printed with a flat foil gold foil overlay. And on the back, the serial number is printed in gold foil, which is cool. It's a cool set, and it's a really extensive set of a lot of star players. But what gets me about this set is not only its rarity, is that how big the set is. I mean, 128
Hmm.
cards is that's a lot. You'd think like a card serial number to 63, they'd maybe minimize that roster a bit, down to maybe 20 cards, but it's 128 cards. It's a lot. But so I got mine. Let's see when I got mine here. I picked up mine back in 2012. I really appreciate this set. I just never see them. And they're not refractor. They don't have hollow foil finish, and they don't have it's not a flashy set. If you saw it in a showcase, all you would have to know is that what it is based on the flat foil diamond on the front of the card. That overlay. Otherwise, you'd probably overlook it if you didn't know what you were looking at. They're available online, but even online, you'd think with 63 times 128, that is a pretty big number. But they're just rare. I mean, you can still find them on eBay pretty routinely, but for what they are, they're highly collected, and they're minimally discussed. And I just want to talk about them because I like the set.
Yeah, I really think that these are great definition of the general underappreciated, what makes a card underappreciated. And I think the main reason why is because of just the look. It's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
In an era where you had die cuts, you had embossed, you had different types of refractor patterns, and then you have Fleer going, well, the vintage route, pun intended, I guess you could say. And they put out a card that white border, action photo, and then a little gold triangle or gold diamond. And it's very unassuming until you turn it over on the back and you see a stamp of, oh, wow, this is numbered to 63. And there's 120 people in the set. I just thought that this is a great example of a card that is easily overlooked, very underappreciated, and extremely rare to find of any player, let alone your player.
Which kind of brings me to the next card that I'm going to talk about. 1998 Topps Gallery produced a set with a bunch of different versions of the cards. And the one I want to talk about is the Gallery Proof, because it looks almost identical to the base card. And if you were just looking at the front and you didn't know how easily it is to miss, this is one of those cards. It's like right under your nose and you wouldn't see it. Because the Gallery Proofs are printed on canvas style paper, whereas the base card is printed on cardboard, but it has like a sort of like a flat finish to it, a little like slight gloss to it. But they look almost identical next to each other. Or like if you saw them at different points at different times in a show, you would have thought you saw the card twice. And so because of this card, unless you flip it over and see that it's printed in black and white and it's serial number to 125, you wouldn't realize it. You might have just missed it. And this is kind of one of those cards you might end up finding in a bargain bin at a show or something. They're inserted into packs at a rate of 1 in 34. It parallels the base set, so it's like if your player's in the base set, he's gonna have a gallery proof version of the card. So this took me a long time to find. Since I've gotten mine, I've only seen one other example surface online, and it didn't sell for that much money. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, I probably should have gotten that other one too, just because of for what it is. It's just one of those cards that, unless you saw the back of it and you compared that to the base card, and you knew what you were looking at, it'd be easy to miss. And also too, Gallery produced a player's private issue version, which looks very similar as well. But what this parallel set has going for it is that it actually says player player's private issue on the card, whereas the gallery proof doesn't say that. It looks exactly like the base card. The only thing different from the front is, like I said, is printed on a slight canvas feel cardboard. So unless you were looking at both side by side, it would look just like the base card. So I want to talk about that because this is kind of like right under our noses and we might not see them.
Yeah, and again, this is where a card that is very easily unassuming in look, but is very easily overlooked. Because, as you said, if you're looking at this card scanned on a computer, like maybe you're looking on eBay, and you didn't see the back, you would have no idea. And if the seller wasn't diligent enough to do his or her justice of scanning the back of the card, they may sell you a proof and you wouldn't even know about it.
The next one I want to talk about is 1998 Stadium Club First Day Issue. Now, this one took me a long time to find. Okay, this was a tough card for me. In the end of 2017, I finally got mine, and it just, it's one of those cards. I was like, why haven't I found this card after collecting so many years? And so here's the deal. And you and I both know this, that the unicorn status rarity of retail inserts from the 90s, right? This is one of those retail exclusives. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So this was retail exclusive insert in Series 1 and Series 2 at a rate of 1 in 42 and 1 in 47, respectively, for Stadium Club of that year. Now, also, something interesting to think about this is not only is it a classic parallel direct from its base card counterpart, and they're serial numbered to 200, but the first day issues and first day productions we grew up on in 93 and 94, they had a little holographic, rainbowy print on the card, easily distinguishable. Now think about this. When you're searching through cards if you're right-handed, most of us are, some of us are left, but most of us are right-handed. When we're searching through cards, we're moving our right thumb one card at a time over from our left hand to our right hand, okay? The first day issue statement on these cards is on the right edge, okay? So when we're opening packs, we don't see anything else that indicates that we have a parallel. We may miss the fact that this tiny little print on the right edge is on the right edge. It indicates that we have a parallel. We'd have to notice that first and then flip it over and see, oh, it's serial numbered. Okay, what is it? Oh, it's the first day issue. Look, it says it right there. But you'd have to really examine your cards to see this. And this is one of those things where I'm like, gosh, it took me so long to find this one because it's a retail only thing. Like when retail stuff's produced and given to like Targets and Walmarts and Kmarts, the parents are going to go through them, the kids are going to go through them, the stuff's going to get thrown on the ground, and the lifespan of the product is short, and then stuff's being sent back to the dealer or packed out in those like multi-pack Fairfield products. I don't know how Fairfield was doing back then, but I know that there were multi-product releases, like repack issued stuff back then because I bought some of it. But this is one of those issues where I was like, well, it took me forever to get the 96 Studio Silver Press Proof, and that's a number to 100 retail exclusive. This is a number to 200 that came out 2 years later. And I'm thinking to myself, it's probably why it's so hard to find, because it's a retail-only thing, and I never see first day issues. I just never see them. And so I wanted to talk about this because it's not very exciting. The parallel is not interesting. It just says first day issue along the right side, and I flip it over, and it's got the gold foil serial number on top. So it's not interesting, but I like the card, and I wanted to discuss it.
Yeah, now Patrick, you brought up a really interesting point about how you're thumbing from left to right and how you would easily miss that. I had never thought about that, but I'm thinking about all the box breaks that I've watched on YouTube or on groups online, and the majority of the people who are breaking these boxes, they go from the left hand to the right hand because that's just the natural way to go. And even if you were going from right to left, still it can be very easy to miss because you just have this simple text on the right and that's it, until again, of course, you turn it over on the back. So yeah, it's very similar to like the gallery proofs.
Now, my fourth card, let's kind of change gears a little bit here. My fourth card is actually an interesting piece because to my knowledge, it's not cataloged anywhere online or in any price guides. And I came across this through like a suggested search. If you like this, you might like this too on eBay. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's learn about that card. And then I picked up a couple of them because I was like, this is interesting enough to kind of have. This is 1998 Paramount Tony Gwynn dealer promo. Tony Gwynn was kind of the poster athlete for Pacific in Pacific's heyday. And so they featured him on this kind of thing. I've had a difficult time finding information about this product, but to my understanding, this is kind of where this is what I've learned. It was sent to dealers to be put on display in shops to promote the 1998 release of Pacific Paramount. Each card is hand numbered to 600 and is in a one of those like lucite, those thick lucite cases that we've all grown to hate because they destroy cards, you know. But it's got the Pacific branding on it, and it comes with a stand, and so you get this card, you can stand it up on like a countertop or on a display case somewhere. It's really kind of a cool thing. And so you can find them oftentimes even now in the market inside those cases. So when you buy them, you get the case too. Obviously, if you're going to buy them, you want to find a way to get the card out, put it in a penny sleeve, and put it back in the case if you want to still use it in the case. But because they're raw cards in the cases themselves, and they've been in there now for 21 years, any number of risk factors I can come up with for what's going to happen when I try to pull the card out of the case for the one I have. And so kind of interesting. It's got a great picture of Tony Gwynn. He's wrapped in the American flag, and he's got 4 baseball bats, 2 in each hand. You got the fireworks in the background. It's a really cool card. It's got bronze foil around it. At the bottom, it just says inaugural issue Pacific Baseball 1998. Really cool stuff. I like this kind of thing because I don't know much about it, and it's one of those like, oh, it's major licensed product, but it's not cataloged anywhere. So this kind of like it drew my interest when I found this card. And it was a relatively recent find this year. I just discovered this card, so I wanted to talk about it because it's one of those cards that I haven't. If I've been in the hobby for this long and I'm just now finding this card 21 years after its release, like that kind of says something. They're hand serial numbered on the back to 600 in red pen, which is cool because stuff in 98 hand serial numbered in any pen I think is just kind of but me as like when I look at serial numbered cards, I'm always drawn to the ones that are hand serial numbered because it adds a degree of like authenticity to the collecting experience. Like, oh my gosh, someone else touched this and serial numbered it. So I want to talk about that because it's a really interesting card. It's not that valuable. I mean, this is not, like I said, this list isn't supposed to be about most valuable, most underappreciated, rarest. This is just like stuff that we've come across over our years that, you know, in our experience online and negotiations and transactions and conversations that people just don't talk about, you know. And so I'm glad we got a chance to talk about these cards, these 8 cards. Thank you, Rodney, for sitting down with me in this episode. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad to be on. I appreciate it again having me on.
Thank you for tuning into this special segment of Radicards TV on Radicards.com. My name is Patrick Greeno, and until next time, enjoy collecting. If you like this content, please subscribe. Thank you. Enjoy collecting.